up for today's sixth round of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship. Johnson on pole with a 1:14.43 from position 2. 05 Peter Brock, the Mobile Sierra. From position number 3, John Bow in the second of the Shell cars. From 4, car number 2, Jim Richards in the Nissan Skyline. From 5, car number 6, Andrew Madecki in the Kenwood Ford Sierra. From position number 6, 25, Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges Sierra. From 7, 12, Mark Scaife in the Nissan Skyline. From position 8, car number 4, Colin Bond in the Caltex CXT Ford Sierra. From 9, 105, Brad Jones in the Mobile 1 Ford Sierra. Rounding out the top 10, car number 9, Alan Moffat in the ANZ Banking Ford. Sing revs, waiting for the lights to turn off. Prepare for the start of Sandown. Round number 6. They're racing and getting away smartly. Richards off the second low. Johnson, though, wins the start, but Brock going to him, coming down the front straight away. Madecki down on the inside. Bow's in there with them, and Tony Longhurst away on the inside of Richards. They're followed by Mark Scaife and then Bradley Jones as they come down to the first corner. And it'll be Johnson going through very, very quickly. One of the Commodores laying an oil slick all the way down through there, or plenty of smoke anyway. Johnson in front. Brock into second, Madecki, brilliant start. Bow back to 4th, and Longhurst is 5th.
Richards and Scaife following there. Then Brad Jones, Colin Bond, and Alan Moffat.
Big start from Johnson with about 7 odd car lengths in hand up the back straight from Brock, Madecki, John Bow, Tony Longhurst, Jim Richards, Mark Scaife, Brad Jones, a good start, Colin Bond, Alan Moffat, Larry Perkins side by side with Gary Rogers, the first of the holders.
Johnson scooting through the Dandenong Road S's, clear of Brock, up to the left-hander now. Madecki, a good start there in the Kenwood car. Bow sits right behind him. Longhurst wants to get going from behind the back of Bow's Sierra. He's made that painfully obvious in the coming up for the completion of the first lap of this race. As they come out of the pits, it's the Dick Johnson Roadshow out in front. And well and truly in front too, let me tell you, doing it very comfortably. Down the front straight away.
Grandstand on their feet. 1.5 seconds the gap from Johnson to Brock. John Bow sneaks through to 3rd place now at the end of lap number 1. And Madecki back into 4th. Then Tony Longhurst. Remember, Madecki's car brand new. Bow 3rd fastest in qualifying yesterday after a couple of spins. Oh, Mark Scaife, a mistake into the sand trap, or almost into it at the end of the main straight. After a tremendous run at Mallala in South Australia, he'll be disappointed that that's happened.
Johnson leads, Brock, Bow, Madecki 4th under challenge from Tony Longhurst, then Jim Richards in behind them. Then Brad Jones, Colin Bond,
Good
Alan
shot
Moffat.
Sorry, Gary, great shot of the brave end of the Sandown circuit. That was the view from race cam as Brock negotiated the old hill area. Back to second gear through the S's for a long run down this straight. Gets right out to the broken edge of the road.
Actually, I think Longhurst is in trouble back behind this group. We'll probably catch sight of that shortly.
1 minute 16.4 that lap for Johnson, so that sort of speed stabilised at the moment with still relatively cool tyres.
May have been the fact that young Tony Longhurst may have just missed a gear, but everyone just gathered him in and we're all over him up at the in front of the pits.
Jim Richards has gotten by Andrew Madecki.
Oh, Tony out in the dirt. That's a real trap there. The way the ripple strip's been built, it just stops. And if you happen to have half a tyre out on the edge of the road, you drop yourself into nowhere land. The car gets unsettled. We saw that in the Formula Ford race. Tony survives.
Longhurst running 4th at the moment on the road.
Then seat from last to 16th as we take Dulux Auto Colour race cam with Jim Richards.
Richards in 5th position. 220 kilometres per hour turn, that one. As you then have to...
See where he makes all his ground up on Longhurst, but Longhurst put all that distance into him up the back straight that last time. And there it goes again, zhoof, off into the distance. That's horsepower. Now watch Richards again, who will close back up under brakes. Very brave through the turns. And you'll see as they come out onto the main straight once again, Tony vanishes. There he goes.
Well, if you think Tony's running away from Jim Richards, at this stage of the race, Dick Johnson, it's absolute daylight from Johnson now back to Brock and then to John Bow. So Dick's in his own little race mode. out the front.
Colin Bond has gone one spot up higher than Brad Jones. They've swapped 7th and 8th now. So Johnson, Brock, Bow, Longhurst, Richards, Madecki, Bond in 7th, Jones in 8th, 9th, car 9, Alan Moffat, and in 10th, car number 20, Neville Crichton.
Glenn Seaton, who had to start from the rear of the grid, is up into 14th spot, so he's got half the field covered. Mark Scaife back in business after that early spin, but has lost a lot of ground. He's running 22nd.
You don't reckon Mark will be determined at the moment to make up all that ground. Now Brock's amongst some of the slower drivers. He's coming up now on David Armstrong, who's doing the right thing and staring in his mirrors, trying to stay out of strife. John Bowers hard in the boot of the mobile car. It's a great scrap for 2nd and 3rd. Bower, former Australian driving champion, a single-seater man from way back. He's wrestling with his own teammate Dick Johnson for the championship in 1989. He was the runner-up last year, and by G, he's determined at the moment.
Well,
the gap from Johnson to Brock, 3.6 seconds, Gary.
After 5 rounds, Johnson leads the championship by just 2 points from Bow, but of course they've got to drop off their worst result, and if you were to cancel that out now, Bow, in fact, is 2 points in front, so it's that close.
Right here yesterday was where, in the second session, Peter Brock's car jammed in first gear when he was chasing the man that's now chasing him.
They come up the back straight again. Bow trying to set Brock up for a pass. Brocky, though, is not making it easy for him, and nor should he. That's how close they get, but I'm surprised that Brock's car's got about the same amount of sting in a straight line.
I know that the team have been working pretty hard on their engine development, along with Andy Rouse, who's based in the UK, bearing in mind this car is a Rouse, full-spec Rouse car. It's come straight from England, been Australianised in some areas. But I know that the boys have been working on it. They took the car up to Winton last week and were testing. Peter felt that they went the wrong way with some of the engineering development on the car from some of the earlier rounds, and so they've gone back to the sort of reference points they started from. He's much happier with the way it's going at the moment. You can see that it's pretty well equal to the pace of the second shell car. But this little scrap is enabling Dick Johnson to just put some centimetres into these guys at the moment.
Johnson's 4 seconds ahead of this pair.
It's a handy gap. And it just takes the pressure off DJ at the moment. Coming up onto the back of Joe Summereva in the 635 BMW, and my, how times have changed.
Yes.
It was only a few years ago when the 635 was the pace setter in this business. Peter flashing his lights there as he comes up onto the back of, I think it's an old Nissan Skyline. I think it's Matt Wacker.
Pardon?
Down on the inside. Will he get some room? He does. Good driving from the Nissan driver.
Yeah, car 45 it was, Clive Smith.
I'm sorry.
There's Bow sitting right back on the tail of Peter Brock's mobile Sierra. So he can't shake him, but at the same time, previous races, John Bow's had enough grunt with the second of the Johnson cars to be able to just run away. But he's doing it just a little tougher here, and Brocky's not making life more comfortable for him, and it's good to see Brock up there running competitively.
The elbow on the door.
Yeah, that's just to show everyone how cool he is. He loves all this. Loves to be back in a competitive car.
If John gets any closer, his elbow may be on the door.
Actually, is it my imagination, or are they getting a tad closer to Johnson?
Yeah, I've just started the watch now to get an idea of Dick's...
They were until Johnson reached the next straight.
Yeah, to get an idea of Dick's lap times at the moment.
Yeah, 1:16.19, still his fastest lap to this point in the race. Still leading by about 3.5 seconds from Brock and Bow, and then a substantial gap from Bow back to 4th place getter Tony Longhurst, 9 seconds.
Yes, they look great through this part of the circuit, the Dandenong Road S's. John Little-Taylor. Let's check them out for you on our Caltex CXT race score. Race leader, Dick Johnson. Second is Peter Brock. Third, John Bow. Fourth, Tony Longhurst. And rounding out the 5, Jimmy Richards and the Nissan Skyline. Continues to fend off John Bow in round 6 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Sandown. We hope you're enjoying Seven's coverage of the event, brought to you in part by Toyota, by Caltex, and of course by ANZ Car Loans.
The last time through Johnson was a 16.6, so those sort of times are still being maintained. And Peter is threading his way through some lap traffic, and that gap between he and John Bowe just alternates a little bit depending on the traffic.
And the gap between Johnson and Brock was 4 seconds, now 3.
I think the only thing we could probably read into that would be traffic. There's the...
Behind those, you may be interested to know that Tony Longhurst 4th, followed then by Jim Richards, Colin Bond, Andrew Madecki back to 7th now. Neville Crichton up to 8th. Alan Moffat to 9th, and Brad Jones now back to 10th, with Larry Perkins still in 11th. Glenn Seaton coming back through the field now 12th, car 30.
Great shot, panning down the front straight. Looks like someone's defensed a diffumer halfway down
Lyndon
the chute.
Reithmuller in the Holden Commodore creating a smoke screen and an oil slick. It'll be nice to land on at the end of the straight.
Tony Longhurst sits back in 4th spot, still a fair gap back behind John Bowe to Longhurst, as we said.
About 10 and a half seconds now.
Gee, that's an incredible gap. Is Bowe coming down the corner? He's gone very agricultural today, hasn't he, for a Tasmanian?
Yeah, there's something wrong with the car.
Like a demented Dalmatian in the corner.
Just the car's just not behaving well, and that's not going to be doing John's confidence any good. And he's a very tidy driver. You don't see him spear off too often.
No. The strange thing is, though, that Tony Longhurst isn't there to capitalise on it. I mean, 10 seconds back, running in 4th spot. And Glenn Seaton, who will pick up a little later on. There's Alan Moffat going through, Bradley Jones, and Gunho Glenn. Larry Perkins goes through. This is interesting. Glenn Seaton had all sorts of problems, starting up towards the back.
Engine management dramas, then an engine drama. And, of course, they've just come back from the Lakeside mess this weekend. He's come right through from Stone motherless last, and he's scrapping at the moment for 10th place. Brad Jones 10th, Alan Moffat 9th, Neville Crichton in 8th.
There he is making a run. Moffat sits there, Bradley Jones, and here's Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. They're pretty tight as they come through the Dandenong Road S's. Close up behind Moffat. That's outside of the Brock Bowe extravaganza that was going on earlier. About the only thing. Caltex replay here as Jimbo in the Nissan.
Well, you know what's happened there. He's got himself mixed up with the Holden Commodore that was being lapped, and he's plunged underneath. It wasn't a big enough gap.
Once again, Seaton pulls inside of Brad Jones halfway down the straight. I feel the mobile cars lacking for nothing in straight line speed today here at Sandown.
Glenn Seaton has passed 20 cars so far to get to this point in the race, to be hounding Brad Jones.
The next 9 are going to be the hard ones.
Yes, I was about to say the ones that he has passed include the smaller category cars, the little Toyota Corollas out there having a battle of their own, led by John Faulkner. And young David Armstrong running 2nd in that category. Good effort.
This has got the potential for a really great scrap. 3 Ford Sierras, nose to tail. 9th, 10th and 11th in the championship. Glenn Seaton, 23 years of age. He was the winner here in the 500-kilometre race at Sandown in 1986. Runner-up in the Touring Car Championship to Jim Richards in 87 when he was driving for Nissan. He was also the runner-up at Bathurst that same year. He's way back in 7th at the moment with only 18 points. Disappointing run so far in the Shell Ultra Series for him in 89. He's trying to make amends for it today. Coming up past David Armstrong.
It's good to see Dave having a run here.
Yeah, one of the Marlboro Yamaha motocross riders.
Gee, he's done well at the motocross, not only in Adelaide and Brisbane and also in Sydney, but I believe one of the stars of the upcoming Supercross Masters at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre on the first weekend in August. By the time he trades the 4 wheels for 2 and over the lumps and bumps, he's a versatile youngster.
Well, he's done pretty well to be running 2nd in this category here today against a campaigner like John Faulkner, who leads this class by so far you couldn't hit him with a bow and arrow. Getting muscled there by the V8 Commodore of Larry Perkins. But reliability is the big factor with these little cars. They just stay all day.
There's Larry Perkins, first appearance in the Touring Car Championship this year. I believe he'll also be at Winton for the next round. If you cast your mind back 12 months, at Winton, this car, or certainly its predecessor, this man, very, very quick. And both Larry and I think Alan Grice believe that their Holden Commodores will be in pretty good shape on a track that suits the torquey characteristics of the V8 Holden.
Perkins running 12th on the track at the moment and leading the Commodore Brigade.
Jones is past Moffat. Seaton is now up on the outside to try and do the same.
Moffat comes back on the inside of Seaton. Is he going to give way?
That puts Seaton in the marbles.
It puts Allen one out and one back, though, when they come to the ribble strips.
I know, I just read an article recently about Glenn Seaton. He said that in his younger years, Moffat was his idol. He's just gone past his idol. He's about to go past another bloke, too, if he can get a run on the inside.
No, he wasn't idle when he went past Moffat. Allen sits into the split them.
Oh, Andrew Madecki dropping way back off the boil here and goes to the pits. Problem with his new car.
Okay, Seaton has managed to get by Moffat now. Once again makes a lunge here on Bradley Jones halfway down the straight. Sits in the draft. See if he can pull out at the end of the straight. Now under brakes. Moment of truth for Bradley Jones. Seaton through. Not a problem in the world. Great driving from Glenn Seaton off the back of the field.
It's not over yet.
Well, it is as far as Glenn's concerned into the next series of corners. A little taily that time. But he heads off up the back straight. Some good driving from Glenn Seaton. Brad Jones sits in behind him, and Alan Moffat tails them in the ANZ Sierra. Just checking them out on the Caltex race score for you. Dick Johnson continues to lead round 6 from Peter Brock in the Mobile Racing Sierra. Third is John Bowen, the second of the Shell cars. Fourth, Tony Longhurst, and fifth is Jimmy Richards.
Pretty encouraging gap, if I can use that word, between Johnson and Brock. It's about 3.5 seconds. So it's not over by any stretch of the imagination. We're only just coming up to about half race distance. And other than what Simmons Plains, I think that's the closest anybody's been to Dick for a while.
Yes, you're absolutely correct with that. There's Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra.
Bondi running in 6th. So another good solid effort from him without being able to latch onto the front runners.
It's good to see him at least getting a couple of results up now. He had a terrible run at the early part of the season. One of Motorsport's characters, Colin Bond from Sydney, from Hunters Hill.
There's the scrap between Crichton and Seaton. And isn't Glenn Seaton having a go? Look at this. This is aggressive driving, and he's doing a great job. Glenn Seaton through one more spot. That brings him through to 7th. Incredible drive from the Peter Jackson youngster.
That has been a sensational drive from Glenn Seaton, as you said. He's got past Longhurst now and can start making some inroads, but I think the gap we're trying to keep between Dick Johnson and Peter Brock is also interesting. So they come down the straight. To give you an idea of the gap, there's a couple of the cars going through. Seaton, who we've mentioned, has come all the way off the back. Now down the front straight away now, Dick Johnson has got Peter Brock just closing on him. We'll get that for you.
Half a second between them.
Now.
Yeah, it's on now. And I noticed that the last time through, Seaton's car was missing right at the top of the range, but not slowing him down too much because he's moved up to 7th. And Moffat and Jones continue their battle in 9th. And Larry Perkins on that last lap just dropped away a little bit.
Here they are coming up the back straight. Dick Johnson, car number 17.
We'll see whether or not from perhaps race cam whether Brock makes any ground on Johnson over the top of the hill. I reckon that's where he's been closing up. It's the shot. Here it is. Look at this. Under brakes, a bit closer, back to 3rd gear. So I think Dick makes the ground up the straights a bit, but Peter's making it under brakes and through the turns. Yes, he does indeed. Look at this. And Dick gets plenty of grip, plenty of grunt coming out of the turns, and once again the rubber band closes up.
Some great pictures coming out of Peter Brock's car, courtesy of Dulux Auto Colour.
What's interesting about it is that you can see what the difference in performance between the two cars are. And it's got the grandstand crowd on their feet. And it's probably got Dick on his toes a bit at the moment too.
Say nothing of Brocky.
Dick has just taken the pressure off by a car length in that last lap.
The gap from the top two, Johnson and Brock, back to John Bowen, third spot now is 13 seconds. So the top two have got it to themselves at the moment.
Incidentally, Mark Scaife, for those who are interested, is back to 12th position in car 12, just behind Larry Perkins in 11th in car 11.
Been a good fight back that by Mark Scaife. He and Jim Richards running for Nissan here today. George Fury's car.
Yeah.
Some great shots there. Coming down through the Dandenong Road S's. There's Johnson trying to force a passage through on the number 24 Commodore. Brock's going to lose out on that one.
George Fury's car suffered some damage at Mallala and is still in the workshop, so he's not here today.
Oh, Brock's not going to like this.
That was Gerald Kay's new Commodore.
Gerald did the right thing, and he gave him a wave and was fighting plenty of oversteer on the way out.
And despite all that, Johnson will lead them across the line. Johnson still comfortably in front.
Now this is interesting.
Perkins is getting close to these guys, and they're about to be left by Johnson and Brock.
Yeah, so you've got first and second coming up onto the back of the scrap for 11th, 10th, 9th. And in the midst of all this, we've got Peter Brock's mobile teammate.
Craig Jones serving it up pretty well to Alan Moffat at the moment. Perkins right on their tail, and a look out because Dick Johnson breathing right down their neck. Four-time winner of the Australian Touring Car Championship. In fact, the only man, of course, winner of the James Hardy 1000 in 1981, second last year, and of course the leader of the championship at the moment.
Well, this is an interesting group of cars.
Johnson a little sideways that time, and Brocky closes up right behind it.
Crowd rise to their feet in the stands. They can see some action here.
He's onto him. If he can...
Well, he was for a moment.
Coming right up on the...
He's just adopted, the rear end of the car chattering. Locked up a breakdown there. You can hear it on race cam. He just decided to hang wide back there. What's up with Jones' car? Is there something spilling out from underneath it? Something going on there that was a little strange. Perkins is under his rear boot lid.
Okay, they head up the back straight.
You notice that Dick was really keen to get Larry under brakes at the end of the main straight. He tried to dive in there, but he couldn't. Larry pulls to the inside at the top of the back straight. Johnson by and Brock by. And Jones pulls wide to allow them all to go down neatly. And he and Larry Perkins resume their dice. And Alan Moffat's made some ground out of all that.
Here's Brock once again, sitting in behind Dick Johnson. Tantalisingly close. I was going to be a cynic for a moment and say that the Shell people have told him how to find some airtime. But at the moment,
he's pushing him because Dick's starting to get onto the edges a couple of times there. He's just spat some dirt up at Brock's car then. Now, if Brock can get the toe here, which he's got, he pulls wide. So he maintains a race line. Dick goes for the defence on the inside.
It'll be Johnson's corner, make no mistake. But the writing could be on the wall as Dick goes in tight. And the tail skips out. Brock comes up alongside and says, what a race. We'll do a bit of that in a moment. Two, just get rid of some of these slower cars in front of them. A fascinating race, though. If we can just get another 6 or 8 cars in the next few rounds to join the draft, got a sensational finish coming up for the series. Up the back straight. Coming up, I think, Neville Crichton not too far ahead of them. Or Tony.
Incidentally, the Jones car has expired on the entry to the back straight, so there was something strange going on under there.
Oh, there's Brad Jones. You're spot on. That doesn't look good.
In one lap, Johnson and Brock have put 9 seconds on Larry Perkins and the Commodore since they passed him.
Not much of a performance difference, is there?
Yeah, Peter missed out on that one. Dick really used that to advantage as he came up on Alan Moffat. And goes chasing back after him as Dick used the traffic well and truly to his best advantage there. There's the Moffat car. As Johnson gets rid of Crichton and Brock arrives on the inside of Alan Moffat.
Oh, gee, and takes a bit of ground back from Brock as they go through the left-hander. And this is a great break for Dick Johnson here because he's got 2 cars playing spoiler for him. Not deliberately, of course.
They head up the back straight to Motorcraft Hill. Brock pulls to the outside of Alan Moffat as Johnson heads up the hill, still leading on our Caltex race score. Brock runs in second, Bow still back there in third, Longhurst is fourth, and Jimmy Richards is fifth. Johnson heads up to the top of Motorcraft. Let's have a look at our Caltex replay now as Johnny Bow having more trouble than a one-armed fiddler in a Force 2 Gale. Once again, gets the 18 car around Simon. I think that's about his 3rd lose for the weekend.
Yeah, he's not having a good one.
Jimmy Richards running 5th on the road at the moment. Expected maybe just a touch more from Jim today, but I think maybe the off he had a little earlier didn't do too much for him, or the car. Certainly lost him a lot of ground. So Jimmy Richards continues on. Maybe we might be able to get to the bottom of what happened there.
Jim, Neil Crompton calling. What happened between you and the Commodore?
What Commodore?
Well, early in the race, we saw you up in the grass down the back of the circuit.
Oh, right. Well, he waved me through, and I was just a bit eager to get through. A bit too quick, and there was a bit of oil on the corner, and I just, unfortunately, went straight ahead, but I managed to keep it going.
Car in good shape at the moment?
The car is very good. There's a lot of oil around, and it seems to be right where I want to drive. Over.
What about the tyres on the car at the moment, Jim?
Well, the tyres are like all tyres. They're not as good as they were at the start, but as long as they keep hanging in, we'll be quite happy.
Are you surprised at the pace of the Sierras?
No. I knew they'd be that fast, but I just thought I'd be a bit faster. Over.
The car was very good in practice for you. Was it just a case of not being able to maintain those sort of lap speeds in the race?
Yeah, see, practice is a one-lap event, and it's great for one lap, and then you use up the best part of your tyres, and then you start getting slower and slower. We have to go so much faster around the corners, or try to make up the deficit on the straight. So that alone wears the tyres more than the Sierras.
Glenn Seaton into the pit area.
Well, he's done a great job to come from the rear of the field up to 7th position, but that is the end of the race. He'll go no further. Only 5 cars on the front running lap now. Johnson, Brock, Bow, Tony Longhurst and Jim Richards. But the gap between the top 2, Johnson and Brock, back to 3rd spot. John Bow's now widened out to nearly 30 seconds.
It's not the happiest of days for John Bow, who so far on the touring car title has been able to take care of the challenge of Peter Brock, but Brock's hanging in there today.
7 odd minutes remaining. And I noticed that both Brock and Johnson pulling up around about the 210 metre mark at the end of the main straight. That compares with early in the race down on the 150 mark.
Actually, 6.5 minutes exactly racing time left.
There's Tony Longhurst, car number 25.
4th position.
Been a lonely old race for Tony.
It has. He's never been able to get near the leading division, has he?
Must be the most frustrating part of the big sponsor, the great car and everything else, and go racing by yourself for an hour and hardly spot a car.
I can assure you it's better than not going racing.
It's not. I guess it's better for the fans to have a few more around you, though. Here's Longhurst. He moves up. towards Motorcraft Hill.
Yeah, comfortable margin ahead of Jim Richards. Miles behind John Bowe. So there's really not much he can do. Longhurst, 31 years of age. Winner of the Better Break Series and last year's Tooheys 1000. Fifth in the Touring Car Championship in 88, and he's currently fourth with 38.5 points up his sleeve, and probably a little bit dejected with the way things are working in Melbourne today for him.
5 minutes remaining. That's about 4 laps around here.
So it's do or die for Brock. He's up onto the back of the Gerald K. Commodore. You can see, no doubt, because of the state of his tyres, just how much more gentle he's got to be on the car. You notice he doesn't turn in nearly as quickly or firmly, not on the power as hard, brakes softer a little earlier. At the end of an hour, these cars are not the cars they were at the beginning, so therefore you can imagine what they're like in 1,000 kilometres of racing.
Which is a different ballgame entirely.
And that's why cars like, say, for example, the BMW M3 have always been so successful in Europe. You tend to find that the lap speed of an M3 on lap 2 is pretty much the same as it is on lap 152. And
just that everyone else has reversed up.
Everybody else is starting to go backwards. They've been very successful over there for a long time, the long distance races, before they were killed off by FISA. And that was the secret.
I think both Dick Johnson and Peter Brock conserving their cars at this time of the race. Brock perhaps just a little more than Dick.
56 minutes and 17 seconds down out of the 1 hour race. So now I think it's probably a case of for Brock. Now we can see a brake duct dangling on the Richards car. That's a piece of it's like plastic hose that ducts cool air in from the front of the car into the brake discs. And no doubt when Richo went motocrossing, he dragged it off the bottom of the car. The ride height of the Nissan's pretty low.
And he travels along, and Mark Scaife, the second of the Nissan team drivers, sits in behind him.
Ooh, and he's up on 2 wheels. Yeah, that's all it is by the look of it, just a piece of the ducting. It's not really a drama. There's the shot from the back of the Nissan Skyline of Jim Richards. Boot cam. And Jim's giving it the boot up the back straight at the moment with his teammate behind.
So Richards goes through.
57.5 minutes. And all the while, Peter Brock still that same distance behind race leader Dick Johnson. So what I was going to say before we spotted the bit dangling from Jim's car was for Peter, it's either got to have the massive lunge if there's anything left at all, or be content with second. There's not too many blokes out there that are ever content with second. So it's interesting now to speculate with a minute and a half to go.
Yes, Brock is on the brakes a lot earlier than Johnson.
Yeah, really noticeable that time at the end of the main straight. So I don't think there's too much left in either of these fellas at the moment. For all the advantages that people are claiming that the Shell team have had technically, you still have to drive the car around, and you do have to say, and we mentioned it at Mallala, that Johnson's done a great job driving this year. I know a number of observers, various parts around different tracks, have said he really looks sharp, and he does this year. Super confident, super smooth and quick.
I think a lot of that's had to do with having a teammate like John Bowe, who was just a tiger, and you let him loose and he comes back after the first practice session. half a second quicker than you.
That's right, he makes you lift your game.
And you don't want to spend the rest of the season telling him, hey, son, you've got to run second to me. You've got to race him sometimes. And I think Dick's done that this year. And very, very well.
It's going to be nip and tuck here for the checkered flag. I make 59 minutes and 26 seconds. So I think they'll sneak by one more time. This should be the last lap.
The man had the checkered flag and just thought about it. So I'd say you're right. Next time around, you could consider this almost the last lap of round 6. Rocky closes up just a tad.
Gee, so close and yet so far.
Yep. Unless he's got 3 more turns of boost to get into the top of the hill a little quicker. That's the way they're going to finish. And if he did that, he didn't have to stop it, which he can't do, I don't think. But a good showing, I think, from Peter Brock today.
Yeah, great job from both teams. Both sets of crews that work tirelessly on these cars. And be very encouraging result for the Mobile team to go punch for punch with Dick's car for an hour and finish up shy of the mark by probably a margin of about 1.5 seconds. And if you divide that by the last 46 odd laps of racing, that means they're only a 15th away from maybe getting a win.
I think the checkered flag is just about at the ready as Dick Johnson comes out of the last corner, round number 6 of the Australian Touring Car Championship. Dick's going to take it, but Peter Brock has at least indicated the racing is going to get much closer from now on. Johnson across the line first. Brock will take second. Third place will go to John Bow in car number 18. Tony
Longhurst has been to the pits by the look of it.
So that will move perhaps Jim Richards up one more spot. Well done, Dick Johnson. Let's cap them for you on the Caltex CXT race score. Dick Johnson, the winner of the race today. Peter Brock takes second. John Bow was third.